welcome to the new world.
WTCR.
I just look forward to do it again.
I think it's going to be the best touring car championship since the last 15 years.
As a racing driver, you want to compete against the best in the world. This year will be absolutely exceptional.
It's a proper reset.
New driver, fast driver and old driver.
26 cars on the grids, that's just insane.
Check out the names, their CVs. Mamma mia. I think that's fantastic.
I think it will be an exciting championship.
Plenty of touring car legends on the grid.
The competition will come from all quarters of the pit lane.
Yeah, you have to be not only quick, but smart.
You cannot allow yourself to make any mistake.
You could be second or 15th.
I'm humble, but I'm confident in myself.
This is the opportunity I've been waiting for.
It's difficult to say who will be the favorite.
There are a lot of favorites, I think, this year.
20 of the 25 can win the first race and the championship.
The dawn of a new era and the 2018 season of the World Touring Car Cup presented by Ascaro started on the streets of Marrakech. With 3 races every weekend, now the drivers could expect wildly different fortunes at any time. Plenty of opportunities to either win big or lose valuable points. 2009 world champion Gabriele Tarquini would find out immediately just how fortune can vary on his return to competitive action. He beat pole sitter Ted Bjerke off the line in race 1, becoming the first winner in the history of the WTCR. Tarquini was then forced to retire from race 2 after contact with the wall, leaving his BRC team with plenty to do to get his car ready for race 3. The veteran was on pole, and a second win of the weekend was the result, payback for his many months of development work on Hyundai's i30N TCR.
I'm over the moon and I hope that the dream continues.
After a difficult race 1, Ivan Muller was eager to improve in race 2, but found himself dragged into battle by ultra-competitive Esteban Guerrieri. The Argentine barged past, keeping Muller stuck behind him for much of the race. Four-time world champion would eventually finish down in 9th. The good result finally came in race 3. Muller was racing the Hyundai for the very first time and still learning the ins and outs of his Korean machine. A second place in the main race of the weekend was a fantastic reward for his team, which only started work on his and Ted Bjerke's cars 8 days before the start of the season. 2017 champion Bjerke headed back to Europe with 2nd in race 1, 3rd in race 3, 2nd in the driver's standings behind leader Tarquini. The crews are back in Europe for the second weekend of the season, with the Hyundai teams hoping to keep up their momentum and their pace advantage at the Hungaroring. Hungary is, of course, also the home race for Tarquini's BRC teammate Norbert Mikulec and his host of loyal fans. The Hungarian caused pandemonium in the stands as the crowd celebrated pole for race 1 and race 3. After a torrid time in Marrakech, hamstrung by an engine change, Norby needed to get his season back on track and fast. The BRC driver did exactly that, despite lacking a little off the line, coming home 3rd in race 1, then 2nd in race 3 to really kickstart his season in front of his adoring fans. Race 3 also marks the first 1-2 of the year for BRC Racing, as Norby's teammate Gabriele Tarquini, producing one of his trademark fast starts to leave his teammate trailing, was never headed, going on to claim his 3rd win in just 6 races.
except my age, the rest seems to work very good. I mean, today I did a very good start. It was the key, again, of the victory, because in this track with a similar car, it's very difficult to overtake.
The other hero of Hungary was young Frenchman Yannick Laché. Ivan Muller's nephew was in great form. He made it through to Q3 for the first time, taking 5th for the weekend's main race. The Frenchman was also perfectly placed to take advantage as Michelisz and Guerrieri clashed and went wide in race 1, taking the lead, then going on to score his first win of the season and his first of the year for Honda's TCR machine. Race 2 didn't go as planned. Unfortunately for Jan, he would end up retiring, complaining of a lack of power, but he performed much better in race 3, starting 4th on the grid, finishing there too to complete a fine weekend. The Munich Motorsport driver would lie 4th in the standings 6 races into the season. With a lifetime of touring car experience behind him, Ivan Muller is the man who knows how to score points even when he hasn't got the fastest car on track. And the Frenchman used all his savvy to take 4th in the opening encounter, stepping onto the bottom step of the podium for races 2 and 3. Muller knows all about the Hungaroring's reputation for making overtaking particularly tricky, so turned all his attention to putting himself into the best possible position in turn 1, a tactic that paid dividends with more valuable points towards a hoped-for title challenge, safely banked away.
We still have to learn the car, and we have to discover many things still. But I'm pleased with this podium, you know. I couldn't go faster than that, but yeah, podium is not bad.
There was another world champion on track, 2012 winner Rob Huff, using his off-season move to Sebastian Loeb Racing as an opportunity to remind people just what he's made of. The Briton was on the podium in the opening race in Marrakech, but on pole in race 2 here, leading local hero Norbert Nagy off the line, taking his first win of the season. For the 4th consecutive year, World Touring Cars had the honour of pitting itself against arguably the most iconic racetrack of them all, the Nürburgring's Nordschleife. Commonly known as the Green Hell, this 25.5-kilometre stretch of tarmac has the reputation of being the most demanding and exacting racetrack on the planet. A win here is the stuff of legends. The track is always ready to pounce on any driver who makes the slightest mistake. Even our championship leader is not immune. Just under a lap into the first race of the weekend, and Gabriele Tarquini fell victim, snatching a break, clattering into the barriers and out of the race. And the Italian's team was in a race against time to fix his machine for the next outing. BRC did manage to get Tarquini's patched up in time for race 2, but it wasn't to be his weekend. His race ended on the fastest sector and the opening lap. Contact with former British Touring Car champion Gordon Shedding ending his run and also his chances of making the grid for race 3. Tarquini's championship lead was history. The new man at the top of the tree, predictably enough, it was veteran Ivan Muller. He knows that scoring good points consistently is key to any title challenge, and as his own team boss was taking that mantra very seriously. Qualifying on the front row for race 1 and going on to take his first win of the season, he also took 4th and 3rd in races 2 and 3. It would be a 50-point weekend for Muller Another man laying down a clear challenge for the title. And it wasn't just about the boss. Ivan Muller Racing enjoyed a fantastic weekend. Ted Björk followed the boss home for a 1-2 in the opening race. And after damaging his steering in race 2, came back to nail his first win for YMR and to go third in the standings in the weekend's final encounter. At this stage, there was no question. The Hyundai was the best car on the grid. Esteban Guerrieri, meanwhile, was also putting together his own title challenge. Held by his mechanics, the Argentine did well to recover from a coming together with Tarquini in race 1 to win an incident-packed race 2, becoming the 5th different winner of the season and moving up to 7th in the standings. The 4th weekend of the WTCR season saw World Touring cars back at Zandvoort in the Netherlands for the first time since 2007. Former the home of the Dutch Grand Prix. The Dutch coastline provided no holiday for the Hyundai teams. After dominating the opening 3 weekends of the season, the balance of power changed and the i30s would fail to claim a podium in any of the 3 races. Race 1 was a dramatic one for the Korean manufacturer. Just 4 corners in, Mikulits and Muller came together in spectacular fashion, leaving the latter's car beached and battered on the Armco.
It's a shame to do something like that, to break a car for 20 place. It's a bit crazy. I don't know why he did that, but he did it. That's the result.
To be honest, we approached turn 3 side by side. Ivan was trying to go around the outside. I had the inside line. And at one point, exiting the corner, we touched. And the front right suspension broke. So it wasn't really possible for me to control my car.
Both cars looked very second-hand, but the mechanics worked their magic, and amazingly they were both out on the grid for race 2, though Mikulits was handed a 10-place grid penalty, having been judged to have caused the collision. After a short night, Muller was back on the grid for race 2 as well, though he may have wished he'd stayed in bed, as he was forced out with an engine issue. And the difficult weekend was not yet over. The Frenchman also dropped out of race 3 with more mechanical woes. Zandvoort, an event very much to be forgotten for Ivan. Tarquini, like Muller, also failed to score points in the sand dunes at Zandvoort. The Italian retired from the opening race and ran near the back in the other 2. His rocket-fueled start to the season was beginning to splutter. With the championship front runners getting starker in the sand, who would stand tall and take advantage? Jan Ehrlich was finding great pace for Munich Motorsport, winning race 1 from the front row of the grid, backing that up with 2nd and 6th places in the other encounters. The youngest man on the grid took over from Uncle Ivan at the top of the points pile.
Still very happy, proud of my team. They just did such a great job during the winter, and from the beginning of the season they really deserve this one. And yeah, we worked very hard to be there on the top, and yeah, we had a good race.
The Dutch coast was also the first chance to see Aurélien Cost's Peugeot at the sharp end of a race this season. The Frenchman took the 308's first podium in race 1, followed by a surprise maiden victory in race 2, after taking a whole shot and running away from the front row of the grid. Fredrik Vervisch was also finding his feet in CUPRA Racing's Audi RS3 after a sluggish start to his season. A couple of podiums on the Nordschleife were backed up with another third place in race 3 in Zandvoort. The winner of that third race was another Audi driver, Jean-Carl Vernet. The Frenchman had been a model of consistency thus far, only out of the top 10 once, capping it all with a lights-to-flag victory from pole in race 3 to go 4th in the standings, a mere 25 points off the lead.
Yes, c'est bon ça. Bravo les gars, bravo. Trop bien, trop fort quoi. Non, super boulot, vraiment belle course, vraiment. C'est la course parfaite quoi. Bien géré, super.
The reigning WTCR International Series champion and his team were justifiably thrilled. Another win firmly under their belts. By the time the WTCR circus arrived in Villarreal in late June, at the midway point of the season, the new formula was already a huge hit with fans and drivers alike, with 9 different drivers standing atop a podium in the opening 12 races. So who else was ready to add their name to 2018's Roll of Honour? The start of race 1 in Portugal resulted in the most spectacular of multi-car pile-ups, triggered by a coming together between teammates Huff and Banani. A clear contender for World Touring Car's most impressive shunt ever award. It was made all the most amazing by the fact that all the drivers walked away, although not necessarily in a straight line. There was not a car unmarked, it was pure mechanical carnage. Incredibly, only 7 cars were unable to make the race when it was restarted hours later. That it was only 7 was largely down to the fast reactions of the drivers further back down the grid when the race ground to a halt ahead of them. For the 2 who triggered it, Volkswagen drivers Rob Huff and Mehdi Banani, it marks the end of their weekends. Both were shocked, but otherwise in okay health. Unlike their cars, James Thompson also visibly shocked. The Briton would not return to the track again the rest of the season. The track workers and the mechanics were busy beyond words, but incredibly, the racing would start again. Jan Ellershey's Honda Civic was in the thick of the mayhem. The Munich Motorsport mechanics worked miracles to get his car back on track for Sunday's races, where he managed a pair of 7th places in a misbehaving Civic. The championship lead might have gone, but Ellershey's fighting spirit shone through along with that of his team. Ted Bjerg was also hard hit in the crash, Banani's car ending up perched on his bonnet as his car briefly burst into flames.
I put the fire extinguisher on directly, and then I was locked in the car, but I managed to kick the window, so that was quite scary, but it was good that I came out.
Despite all of that, the Swede was back on the grid for race 2, taking a single point for 10th, but his real reward came in race 3. When Bjerg, starting from pole, nailed the start and ran away to take his 2nd win of the season in a Hyundai. He was now 4th in the championship standings, 40 points behind the leader.
Excellent, my friend, excellent. What a great drive. Well done, mate. Well done. Thank you.
Norbert Michelisz was another victim of the race 1 chaos, the Hungarian hurting his wrist in the shunt, and he was in pain for some time after.
When I arrived this morning and I tried to sit in the car and turn the steering wheel, on the first 20 seconds I was thinking about how to explain to the team that I cannot make qualifying, but then it's just, I mean, on one lap you put your teeth together and you accept the pain.
Fighting through the pain, the BRC driver went on to take 5th place in race 2 and then stepped onto the bottom step of the podium in race 3. A great effort from Norby. Ivan Muller was the lucky winner of race 1. Resuming the race on pole, he'd qualified in 6th. He went on to take victory ahead of Esteban Guerrieri and Pepe Oriola.
I take the point, of course, but it's not a real victory. That one or race 2 is not a real victory, but I take it.
In race 2, the Frenchman secured a solid 2nd place behind shot winner Matto Homola in his DG Sport Peugeot. Both Peugeot drivers had now claimed victory in a much unfancied car. After the carnage of Portugal, Ivan was back in the championship lead, 22 points ahead of Erlache, with Tarquini right back in it at the midway point of the season. A late addition to replace an original race in Argentina, the Slovakiaring was back on the calendar after a 2-year absence in 2018. The track just outside Bratislava has a well-earned reputation for fantastic touring car racing, and 2018 would prove no different. With 3rd in race 1 and victory in race 2, Gabriele Tarquini was enjoying his best weekend since Hungary. Unfortunately, his race 3 was over before the end of the first lap after coming together with the Honda of Benjamin Lessen. Contact between the two was enough to trigger an impressive multi-car pile-up, which also dragged Esteban Guerrieri and John Filippi into the mix. The Italian would leave Slovakia with his championship lead restored, but by only 3 points from Ivan Muller.
Yeah, I'm not, watching deeply the points because it's not the last race. It's just halfway to go.
Third in race 2, the only points Muller could manage in Slovakia as the Frenchman endured a difficult weekend. Four-time World Championships winners' hopes were hard hit by this bizarre incident after sitting 3rd on the grid for race 3.
It was an opportunity to take the leadership back, but yeah, never mind, that will be for next race.
Meanwhile, Pepe Oriola was delighted to become the 10th different winner of the season, notching up a first WTCR victory for the CUPRA brand. The Spaniard got a great start from 3rd on the grid to pass poleman Tarquini and then set about new leader Aurélien Comte. The CUPRA driver got by the Peugeot on the 2nd lap of the race, then stretched his legs at the front, going on to take the checkered flag ahead of Audi's Jean-Carl Vernet, with Gabriele Tarquini in 3rd. After injuring his hand in Villarreal's monster pile-up, Norbert Michelis was once again showing his appetite for racing in Slovakiaring. He was on pole in race 3, his 2nd near-home race, and the start was good enough for the Hungarian to leave all the carnage behind. He was now our 11th different winner of the season, and with getting the monkey off his back, Norby now chose to focus on chasing down the championship leaders. 3rd in the drivers' standings, behind age-old rivals Tarquini and Muller. The 7th round of the season was nobody's home race, and it was the first of 4 consecutive Asian race weekends. Racing in the Far East brings with it a complete change of atmosphere and culture, and a whole new set of challenges for the teams and drivers, because a single mistake can be so much more costly when you're so far from home and spare parts. Ningbo was the first of 2 races in succession in China, and the undoubted star of the show was Ivan Muller Racing, bouncing back from a tough time in Slovakia to produce the perfect weekend. Ted Bjerg claimed both pole positions after dialing his Hyundai in perfectly, and in race 1 he led from lights to flag. The 2017 World Touring Car champion in a class of his own, taking his 3rd win of the season from Esteban Guerrieri and Frederick Vervisch in the Audi. Bjerg dialed it back in race 2, running a cautious 7th, not wanting to risk his car to maximise his chances of starting from pole in race 3, and the strategy worked to perfection. Another dominant win in the final encounter of the weekend to give his title charge a huge boost. Bjerg leapt from 6th to 2nd in the points.
Thank you for a super goal. You drive well, mate. Absolutely fantastic.
While Bjerg was keeping his cool in race 2, YMR team boss Ivan Muller was on fire. Starting on the front row, he blasted past poleman Mehdi Benani and off into the distance to take his 3rd win of the season, just his 9th visit to the podium.
Very good job. Very good job. Congratulations. Thank you, guys. Well done to you too.
Ivan knew he'd have his work cut out for him, starting 9th in race 3, and he was to be proved exactly right. Just 3 laps into the race, after heavy contact with both Nathaniel Berton and Jean-Carl Vernet, Muller's Hyundai looked very much the worse for wear. A puncture and broken suspension brought his weekend to a premature end, leaving him 3rd in the standings. While YMR dominated, Gabriele Tarquini was simply trying to keep his head above water. Fortunately, his Hyundai i30 was up to the task at hand. The Italian battled his way up to 4th in race 1, despite a 5-place grid penalty for his shunt in Slovakia, but then he didn't finish race 2 after colliding with Esteban Guerrieri. However, a fine 2nd place in race 3 saw Tarquini retain his points advantage, just 8 ahead of Ted Bjerg. After an incredibly consistent start to the season, which saw Jean-Carl Vernet finish in the top 10 in 15 of the opening 16 races, the Frenchman's title charge was coming off the rails. By the time he left Ningbo, the Audi driver had failed to score points in 5 consecutive outings, thanks to a combination of mechanical problems and scrapes on the track. JK slumped to 7th in the standings, 75 points adrift, heading into the 2nd part of our Chinese doubleheader. Second stop on the Chinese doubleheader, a city of 15 million inhabitants, Wuhan, China's very own motor city, and a brand new venue for World Touring Cars. The 4-kilometre track, a typically challenging street circuit with tight corners, concrete walls and some very high-speed sectors. A real driving challenge. The regulations for the World Touring Car Cup presented by Nascar have been put together in such a way that cars at the sharp end of the grid are given success ballast and can even have their engines restricted. This balance of performance being done in such a way as to keep the championship open for all the teams involved. In Wuhan, both Hyundai squads struggled to find a balance in a car running the maximum amount of ballast. Our championship leaders were reduced to also-rans here. Gabriele Tarquini and Ted Bjerg both scored 0 points, while even Ivan Muller point collector supreme, could only manage 2. The status quo remained at the top of the standings. So if the Hyundais were struggling, who shone? Mehdi Benani was one of the drivers to benefit. Having struggled since the huge crash in Portugal, the Moroccan qualified on pole for the reverse grid in race 2, and despite the attentions of Aurélien Comte, held on for his first win of the season, making him the 12th different driver to stand on top of the podium in 2018. However, the second part of our Chinese doubleheader was dominated by Audi. The RS3 fared well from the handicap changes and showed a stunning turn of pace. They would really leave their mark on the Wuhan weekend. After 5 races without a point, Jean-Carl Vernet was back with a bang, pipping Pepe Oriola to pole in race 1, then leading from lights to flag to end his drought with a 3rd win of the season. Teammate Gordon Shedden put his car on the podium for the very first time, finishing in 3rd. I love it when a plan comes together. And it came together for teammate Shedden, finally. Flash, a 2-time British Touring Car champion, completed a successful weekend by notching his first win of the season in race 3. Inspired by his first podium, the Scot had grabbed his first pole position and converted it into a win, making him the 13th different winner of an incredible season. Frederick Vervisch and Denis Dupont, also in their Audis, completed the podium. At the top of the standings, Tarquini still led from Björk and Muller. Oriola, Vernet, Guerrieri, Mikulits and Vervisch were in the mix too, separated by just 12 points. With 2 race weekends remaining, all eyes were now on Gabriele Tarquini, Ted Björk and Ivan Muller. Suzuka threw up one of the most emotional moments of this or any other year with the return to the track of Thiago Monteiro. 415 days after his last race and following a horrific accident in testing last September, the number 18 was back and given a rousing welcome.
Wow. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
Arriving in Suzuka second in the championship and tied on points with boss Ivan Muller, Ted Björk endured a living nightmare in Japan. In race 1, while fighting for 18th, the Swede smashed into the tyre stack at the final chicane. The Hyundai driver limped back to the pits with broken right front suspension, his tail between his legs. In race 2, things would be only slightly better. The team managed to patch up his I-30, and Björk would push it into 12th place, but hamstrung by qualifying difficulties. It looked as though his championship might be over. Before arriving in Suzuka, Ivan Muller was 7 points behind Gabriele Tarquini. His title aspirations were more alive after race 1 though. Muller managed to grab 3rd, while Tarquini battled his way up to 8th. The result was a tie at the top of the standings. For race 2, Muller was 11th on the grid. Tarquini would start 8th. Suzuka is always a difficult track. The balance between outright speed and downforce is hard to pin. If IMOLA Racing struggled with that balance all weekend, leaving Ivan down in 10th in race 2, while Tarquini motored on to claim 5th. The Italian's lead increased after race 3 as well, as he took his 5th win of the season. Now the strong favourite to clinch the driver's title in Macau.
Macau is Macau, it's a lottery. I mean, I play with Ivan many championships there. We know that it's very difficult. It's a good position to approach the last race, so for this reason you see the smile in my face.
Meanwhile, Ivan Muller was having a torrid time in race 3. The Frenchman bumped into Pepe Ariola in Spoon Corner on lap 2, dropping down to 7th. And a lap later was clattered by Esteban Guerrieri at the hairpin. Muller was not in a happy place, and his Japanese agony would eventually end 2 laps from the checkered flag. First, Norbert Michelis made contact with his Hyundai stablemate. Then a brush with Mato Homola finished him off. It was the worst case scenario for Muller, who trailed Tarquini by 39 points heading to Macau.
Maybe we lost the championship, but anyway, everything is possible.
I didn't say that.
But I say that. But everything is possible. Mathematically, it's possible.
With 3 races left, 7 drivers still had a mathematical shot at the title in Macau. The weekend everyone was waiting for had finally arrived, and the eagerly attended face-off between Tarquini and Muller. Muller, a 4-time World Touring Car champion, versus Tarquini, who beat him to the title in Macau in 2009. The 2 oldest men on the grid going head-to-head, separated by 39 points. Just when you thought things couldn't get any more dramatic, Gabriele Tarquini, the most experienced man on the track, made a rookie error in Q1 for races 2 and 3. The Italian missing his braking point, hitting the wall, and he was out of qualifying. He would start the last 2 races of the season, 14th on the grid.
It's not the best place to be and to start, but in Macau you never know. I mean, everything can happen.
Gabriele's best hope was to score big in race 1, where he started 7th, with Muller ahead in 3rd. The start of the race was like a dream for Ivan. Too much wheel spin from poleman Rob Huff allowed the Hyundai driver to sneak into the lead at the first turn. Huff didn't have the pace to challenge, but Jean-Carl Vernet, now that was quite a different matter. His Audi was both fast and light enough and fast enough to cruise past Muller on lap 3 and go on to take victory. Muller finished 2nd, but Tarquini critically was in 4th. His championship lead was trimmed from 39 to 33 points, with 2 races remaining. Ivan Muller still had a very real chance of turning things around in Macau. In race 2, the Frenchman started 6th, Tarquini way back in 14th, and at the start it all went well. But at Lisboa, Pepe Ariola lost control of his CUPRA, crashing into Yann Lachey, who produced one of the moves of the season to recover from a full 360-degree spin and somehow remain in 5th. Behind them there was pure Macau chaos. Crucially, the championship leader was in the middle of it all. Given a healthy push by Nat Berton among others, Tarquini crashed into Ted Bjerg, ripping off the front of his I-30. The Italian had no choice but to wobble back to the pits and into retirement. Was the championship balance now swinging away from the Italian? Muller had a golden opportunity to make inroads into the championship lead and tried every trick in the book to try and get by Timo Scheider for second spot, but it was all to no avail. The former DTM champion held on to claim his first WTCR podium, while an absolutely delighted Frederik Verbisch became the 14th different winner of the year. Muller now lay 18 points behind Tarquini going into the final race of 2018. The championship was still alive. This was to be the final race of the 2018 World Touring Car Cup presented by Ascaro. 11 laps, a flip of the coin. The equation was simple. If Tarquini didn't score, Muller needed third or better to steal the title. At the start, it all went well for both Muller and Tarquini. The Italian moved up from 14th to 11 as a result of mistakes in front. But Muller was stuck behind Mikulits in 5th. Muller needed more positions to take the title. Tarquini needed more to grab it. On lap 6, Ted Bjerg got by Tarquini for 10th. The team's championship was also up for grabs between YMR and BRC. And as things now stood, YMR would be team champions in 2018, despite which Tarquini, only in 11th, still led the Drivers' Championship until, with 2 laps to go, Vernet was in the wall, bumping Muller up to 4th and Tarquini up to 10th. Muller now needed 2 more positions, but it was not to happen. Zolt Szabo crashed at Fisherman's Bend, bringing out the safety car, and with it, the end of the race. It was all over. Gabriele Tarquini was the 2018 WTCR champion by the slimmest of margins from Ivar Muller, while Guerrieri's victory moved him up to 3rd in the final reckoning. But YMR, in their first season in WTCR, were the team champions.
I can't believe it was my dream. I was under pressure because of my mistake on Friday, but I recovered very well in the 3rd race. Fantastic start, I say, far away from the trouble. It was my target, and in the end it was fantastic. I mean, 50 years old, the oldest fox, like you call me, and I won! I won!
Gabriele Tarquini clinched the title, just 3 points, 1% ahead of his closest rival. A late surge from Guerrieri moved the Argentine up to 3rd ahead of Norbert Mikulits and Jean-Carl Vernet. The outgoing WTCC champion ended up in 6th after struggling through the final 3 weekends of the series. Tarquini was delighted, and Ivar Muller, not downhearted, justifiably proud as his team claimed the championship title. The season ending in perhaps the best way for the Frenchman. Now 58 years old and as young as ever, Tarquini claimed his 2nd world title 9 years after the first. The standings dominated by the oldest 2 men on the grid at the end of the most exciting title battle in years. 2019 is already shaping up to be even more exciting, and we'll be bringing you all the action from the World Touring Car Cup presented by Ascaro in the new year.